we now have about 1 in 20 households in the UK using Purdy Figg, coming up to 6-7% now, and 500,000 active members.
So yeah, welcome to another episode of D2C Diaries. We're joined by Jack Rubin today, co-founder at Purdy Figg. I think the way I would describe you guys and yourself, sharp operational thinking, ruthless focus, and that fusion of brand and performance-led mentality. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Been chasing you down for a while. We got there.
Probably the hardest guest to get on. It's been a slog.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Tough man to pin down. But yeah, very excited to have you here. I think I echo what Lucas says. I always use you as a reference point when talking to other brands around just amazing like operation and like simple, how far simple, like keeping things focused and simple can be. Because I know we've had a lot of conversations around that in the past. So excited to dig into some of that throughout the
Always
next
have to
hour.
talk about focus.
Yes.
It's your pinned LinkedIn, Twitter post as well, isn't it? Around the values of the business, and one of them being around ruthless focus. So yeah, but I guess for people that don't know you or don't know the brand, just could you give us a quick synopsis, backstory of the brand up until this point, and we'll get into some more tactical stuff after that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm the CEO at Purdy Figg and one of the co-founders. So we started 6 years ago now. It all came out of my mum called Purdy and her great friend called Charlotte Figg, who started making cleaning products in the kitchen at home. And they were just making products they wanted to use. But over time, their friends would start to say, "Oh, can you make us some?" And they're like, "We'll do better than that. We'll teach you how to make it." So they start to run these workshops to teach their friends how to make cleaning products. And my brother and I were both entrepreneurs and in kind of a dead end in terms of what we wanted to do next. And so we saw kind of the passion and interest from mum's friends, and I kind of saw early signs of product market fit in the concept she was working on. So we said to her, "Mum, can we launch this as a brand? Are you planning to do anything with it?" And she was like, No, I'm just doing this as like a hobby, and I'm going to keep doing it, but please go ahead. We can launch a brand. So then in 2020, we started the business. We hired a PhD chemist as our first move, raised a bit of seed capital, and spent 2 years developing our formula for counter clean, which has now got a patent. And it was a long slog to get there because it's a really complex bit of science to try and do what we were doing with essential oils and surfactants in a really concentrated form that you can add to water to create cleaning product at home. And we launched counter clean at the end of 2022, and then we've been lucky enough to go on a great journey since. We now have about 1 in 20 households in the UK using Purdy Figg, coming up to 6-7% now, and 500,000 active members. So we're very lucky and fortunate.
Yeah, you've got amazing family penetration on my side for sure. I think like every single household in my family probably has your product, including us. It's crazy that level of penetration though. Like when you put it like the sheer percentage of homes you've got into. I guess that's great to hear, but also maybe a bit scary when you're thinking about growth into the future.
Well, so Nespresso is at 18% household penetration. So that's always been kind of where I think we can get to in the UK, as like a benchmark of a great brand with pretty widespread appeal.
Bit overrated though, espressos, I think.
Overrated.
Nespresso.
Yeah. Look, but
big time.
But they did a great job
100%
of making home coffee decent.
Remember when they first it must have been when we were a bit younger, but remember they first kind of popped off and everybody there's a little like espresso pods machines. Yeah, I remember that whole rise. But that's interesting. You've still got a long way to go then, I guess, through that list.
If you make the right moves.
Yeah. I saw you spoke about you were speaking to a seasoned operator, D2C founder, who had gone from your scale to multiple 9 figures. One thing he said is to continue to scale, you need to be making ruthless big swings every year to become more efficient and retain efficiency. Mm-hmm. What was that big swing for you this year?
Yeah, it's very true. So every single year you're going to see your CPMs go up 10% at least. And then you're going into the next, let's call it the next 10% of your audience. So I say your CAC's going to go up 20% a year because you times those two things together, right? So you need to grow 20% a year. You therefore need to take a swing every year that improves your efficiency by 40%. That's essentially how you have to think about growing a business. 40% year-on-year improvement just to grow 20% year-on-year. So yeah, you need to take big swings. So last year, our big swing was creative volume. We went really hard on that and built a big team before it was really a thing to do around creative volume and a process. That was really powerful. This year, it's really been top of funnel. So introducing TV, radio, podcasts, and YouTube awareness spend at a pretty serious level, but measuring it properly, testing it properly, to help grow the pool of customers we can go after. Yeah, we've really honed in on the brand this year.
So, and then you've spoken a little bit about this, but what success have you seen there? I think you shared some interesting insights about how new customer acquisition over time was improving. What are some of the key learnings and takeaways from going through that process? And I guess what advice do you have for founders out there that are maybe looking to bring that into their marketing mix?
I guess my main bit of advice for founders looking to scale new customer acquisition is around focus in terms of what channel they're using. So what I see a lot of early stage founders do is diversify too quickly across channels. What we found was just focusing on one area and becoming really, really good at it is much more powerful. Actually, we diversified too early even as well ourselves, and that was still we probably started diversifying at 20 million, and that was still too early. We weren't ready yet to really understand how new channels contribute.
And that's focusing on Meta, I'm assuming. Like everyone should be obsessing around that until it's like a system that can run.
Not necessarily Meta. It depends on your business.
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah, true.
Meta, influencers, or search, I would say.
Yeah.
Search shopping are kind of the three buckets, depending on whether you're demand capture, demand creation. Yeah. But yeah, become really good at one thing before spreading yourself too thin.
Interesting.
What did that process of becoming, you mentioned, I want to dissect both the creative team build, because I think that's really interesting to talk about, because I always use you guys as a reference. So just when people ask me, like, what's an example of a brand who are doing creative internally at volume incredibly well, I always reference you guys, because I think the sheer, I know you've kind of pivoted this more recently from what you said the other day, but the sheer volume and quality, and then the growth that came as a factor of that, that you guys are pumping out is crazy. How did that evolve over that period of that year? Like, how did you build that out? What was the kind of approach to that?
I think the big unlock with the creative ops was seeing it as a funnel, and every stage of the funnel needs to be addressed on its own. So essentially, you've got asset creation at the start of the funnel, which is, UGC videos, you're doing location shoots, you're doing studio shoots, etc., etc. It might be even AI now at the beginning of the funnel. Then you've got script writing, then you've got video editing, and then you've got uploading to the account and testing as your kind of your main functions. And then it was just essentially adding process and volume into each area. So as we added more script writers, we added more shoots and more production people, and then we added more video editors, and essentially just looked at where things were slowing down the process and just adding heads. So I got to a stage where we had 6 video editors, and lots of different script writers, and last year we did 180 shoots, if you can imagine that.
It's a lot of volume.
So it's like multiple shoots a week, every single week. So just a really simple funnel really that you just have to attack individually.
You spoke about script writers there specifically. Are you isolating creative strategy and script writing, or do you see that role, which traditionally, I guess, more in an agency setting, the creative strategist would be building the creative strategy, but then also doing more executional things like concepting, scripting? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, we've merged them.
Yeah.
So our script writers are script creative strategists as well.
I remember you talking about how you onboard script writers into the business. You just get them writing a ridiculous amount of scripts. Like you're hiring them from big agency, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we took the approach of getting really creative people from big agencies who are used to doing big brand assets. So they have the creative mind, and we did a whole bunch of creative tests in the interview stage, which you speak to our strategists now. They still talk about their interviews. Me sitting there and asking them how many uses can you get out of a brick in 60 seconds, and then you basically plot their answers on a graph of usefulness and how rare the answers are, and you basically get a sense of how creative they are. Those kind of tests. So we pick people out of agencies, but they were used to working on literally like one part of one project for a year or 18 months. So the way they thought about creative strategy was just slow and different. So baptism of fire, like the way to deal with that was to get them to I said you can write about one angle and one persona, and you need to write X many scripts a week, 30 a week or something, and you could only do that one angle. So it was just forcing them into this very narrow, tight brief, and they had to think of every single way of writing that script first, and getting used to doing that, and then do it for the next angle, and so on. And it was just a great way of training them.
I love that. And I remember Ollie mentioned that to me, and that was probably end of last year. And we kind of had this at times, some people come into the business and they're able to just produce volume and produce at speed. But then a lot of the time it's not the case. And I think we went through an evolution of how we onboarded our creative strategists where we were too slow. And I think it's a great learning where we made that flip as well to like from day one, rather than, we're going to introduce you to the concept of this and, watching videos, to literally just execution, volume, speed. You've got X amount of time to do this amount of scripts. Because again, with creatives, and there's a quote, did this documentary years ago about this artist, and he said, you never finish a piece of art. Artists don't finish a piece of art, they just decide to stop. And I think it's the same with this. So you need to almost create the boundaries of where they can work within and get them used to the behaviors of working at speed and scale. So
those constraints are really, really powerful as well. Constraints in general are powerful always. But yeah, I remember reading an article about a photography competition, and I think I tell you about this?
No, but I think study, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they got two groups, and one group they were like, you need to spend 3 months trying to get one photo that's amazing, and it was just trying to get that one photo. And the other group, they said you need to take as many photos as you possibly can as a way of entering this photography competition. And in almost every case, the group that were taking loads and loads of photos produced not only the best photo, but like the top 5 photos, versus the group trying to perfect. Yeah. And it was just that iteration and learning of producing so many and seeing what worked, what lighting worked, the angles. And these were professional photographers even, so they already had the knowledge and information. That really stuck with me, that study.
So that feedback loop is shortening that feedback loop, right? And I imagine that's the same with those people who are coming from big agency. They've had the feedback loop stretched over like 18 months. So to come into a setting where you get data day one when you make an art,
they love it as well.
Must be so refreshing.
They really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the quantity creates the quality. And I guess we've almost gone through another iteration of that with Andromeda and recent updates to Andromeda and how creative similarity now impacts reach. Cost fatigue is changing. How are you thinking about volume differently now versus last year?
I'm a bit slow on this now because I'm not as tight to creative, that level of tactical creative. I know that we're slowing down volume a bit in order to focus more on quality, more because diversity is so important. And so it's just being a bit more intentional about how we create those diverse assets. So slightly fewer, still a lot, but slightly fewer, more diverse assets. So that's just one small change we made recently. But
I think obviously the pursuit of more diversity from a brand perspective often comes from a slowdown in reach and in like an inability to still grow. And we did a podcast the other day with the Happy Stack guys, and you mentioned during that episode how your audience demographic has shifted over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, or maybe even a short time frame.
Yeah.
Through some of this other off-channel activation. It'd be good to hear a bit about that. I know you mentioned that it's gone from like exclusively 40 plus women basically, and now you've really got strong penetration in that 30 to 40 demographic.
Yeah.
Where do you think that's been driven by? Is that off a meta, some of this top of funnel activity, a bit of a combination of the two?
So I think it started with our branding changes. So we did a rebrand in September 24, which just brought the brand, made the brand a bit more modern. Still that same idea.
It was subtle in some ways, but like
it was subtle.
It was like a subtle elevation, I guess you'd probably call it. Yeah.
Exactly. We didn't want to mess with the boat too much, but and we wanted to keep our existing audience, but we did a huge segmentation study into our customer base that was incredibly detailed, looking at all their characteristics, why they were buying, and the different segments of the cleaning market, and how our customer base matched to the wider demographic of the country. And we just found some really interesting insights about who our customer was. And we then created a bit of a bullseye of that customer called Victoria. And from there, we did our rebrand. The reason we chose Victoria's group was that they had the biggest halo effect. Not only did they make up about 25% of the country, but they had the biggest halo effect on the other groups. So we knew if we got Victoria, then we would also get 10% of nurturing controllers. You won't know what that means, but the kind of these different terms, or 10% of sustainability people and whatever else. So we kind of stacked up the TAM from there. And then we just ruthlessly kind of went after that core audience with our rebrand and top of funnel channels. So we moved into doing radio last year as a first test, and then we tested TV this year at quite decent volume, and then we've gone into podcasts and YouTube awareness quite heavily as well. So that's brought a whole load of additional people in market for us. So you can see our awareness and consideration data has jumped significantly. And then we use that to calculate what you call an in-market audience, which is essentially how many people are aware of you and are considering to buy you that you haven't already converted. And we track that because we know how that links to our customer base. So if we drive that up, we're able to drive our customer base up.
Like a leading indicator on future conversions.
Yeah, we know what percentage of that audience we've historically converted.
Yeah.
And so it's just about keeping those ratios relatively stable over time. And it's allowed us to push into a wider group.
Yeah, I think on the brand piece, it's really interesting because I was actually having a chat with a founder the other day, and the way that I think different brands look at Purdy Figg in the market is almost this idea of, they look at Purdy Figg as a lifestyle brand versus a brand that's heavy problem and solution, us versus them, which is an interesting insight. I'd love to know how you view.
I don't think they used to, by the way. I think that's been something that's happened in the last 8-12 months or so.
Exactly. That's what I want to almost tap into, because I think it's interesting how you use positioning through your branding. I've heard you talk about we're the most expensive cleaning product, but the cheapest candle, things like this. How are you thinking about that? What was that journey like over the last 9 to 12 months, as you say, to get to the point where brands view you in that way?
It requires quite a lot of investment. So it's like put your money where your mouth is, basically. So you need to elevate the creative, you need to elevate the design, you need to invest in the packaging, and then you need to invest in channels that aren't DR. because DR will never create lifestyle. DR will convert really efficiently and really well, but ultimately we've seen the data on awareness and consideration. It does some, but not a lot of consideration. In fact, DR can negatively affect consideration. We've seen that in some of our studies. So like essentially piss people off with advertising.
Right, yeah. Too much frequency.
Yeah, high frequency and
poor message
offers and the wrong messages. So you got to basically change your mindset a bit. I mean, I'm a DR guy from my background, but I had to. I accepted the first principles thinking that you can only convert someone if they are in market and considering to buy you. And once you accept that, you start to understand marketing theory a bit better, and you then have to change your mindset and commit to a new way of thinking. So I think I wouldn't recommend doing it too early, because if you start making those investments before you can afford it, it can become problematic. We've seen the examples of, brand-centric D2C companies like, blow a load of money and not do very well.
Yeah.
I think you need to get the balance right between the two and introduce it, in an affordable way when you've got the cash to do so.
And so you don't think it's possible to be viewed as a lifestyle brand unless you are looking at those bigger brand activations, TV ads, more brand focused campaigns?
You can amongst a small group of people, yeah. But it still requires investment. Making good creative is not cheap, at all. Like a good piece of video creative is going to set you back £30,000-40,000. That's the truth.
And I'd love to know like how you're approaching that balance of brand and elevation, especially now where, with the introduction of VO3, now Sora 2. How are you thinking about AI within your creative mix, and how that could potentially, I guess, impact that elevation of the type of creative that you're producing?
So we're using it definitely for the higher end creative. It's really helping us push into concepts that would used to cost maybe a couple $100,000 to make, and we can make them 50,000. So it's supplementing real production and a lot of great thinking on the creative direction side with some AI for the imagination and for the ability to just capture those particularly odd shots. So we're doing an amazing Christmas campaign at the moment about our Christmas scent, frankincense and myrrh, and the whole concept is Santa Claus comes down the chimney and he forgets to deliver presents because he spots a bottle of Purdy Figg on the kitchen counter and just starts cleaning all night. So it's when F&M stole Christmas.
It's funny.
But like to actually do that, we had to use quite a lot of AI to like get the reindeers and have them coming down, because that's like that would be really expensive to do in real life. So it made that video possible. It still costed us a lot of money to make, but probably a third or a quarter as much as it would have.
And are you using it at all for more of your DR focused creative, or is it more just for the more elevated stuff?
I think we're using it to help with script writing and concept writing, and I think we're using it to swap out hooks and B-roll and that kind of thing. But we're not using it to like create full ads, because we just haven't found it to be that effective at doing that yet.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're definitely a way off that. It's definitely, we're doing a lot of the similar stuff there, like hook variations, B-roll, but still haven't found it to be anywhere near as close in terms of outperforming real creative.
I want to come back to that that shift in brand perception, because I think it's really interesting. Because I would also say that it's that the brands become like almost like more aspirational and luxury over a period of time. I've followed the journey for like the whole path of growth, and it feels like when I've seen the TV ad and I hear the radio and podcast ads. I heard one this morning actually on my football podcast.
Why is it always on the football one?
Someone's buying that athletic podcast. Athletic podcast is quite like it's like paid for journalism. So I think it is quite like an aspirational audience. Maybe that's fine. Maybe they're hoping in your buyers like listening in the background whilst the partners like
exactly
football chat.
Who knows? New market potentially.
Yeah, got me. But the delivery of that radio format, the presentation of that TV ad is super elevated. It's like you're trying to make the routine of cleaning like sexy almost, and I think that's a really interesting like thing people are trying to do across those more boring routine categories now. How did you start from purely brand work to build that concept, or did you pull learnings from, say, a Meta from a messaging perspective? I guess, did you start ground up from research, or did you use some of the data you had
Really
previously?
good question, yeah. So with brand work, we've gone really hard on the vision. So from the beginning, when we started, the idea was transform cleaning from a chore to a joy. That's always been the brand's vision. So the insight there was that my mum and Charlotte had basically had to use cleaning products their whole lives, and they never liked a single product they used for 30, 40 years. And so the real concept behind the brand is, how can we change the experience of the products so that you just enjoy cleaning a little bit more? There was a famous quote by Shirley Conran, who recently passed away, which was, we'd all rather lie on the sofa than clean under it. So no one, it's a thing you kind of just have to do. But if you're going to have to do it, you may as well have a product that you actually enjoy and like using. And we were always tackling that experience with lovely packaging, amazing scents, and simplicity. So in the cleaning aisle, it was 15 products for different surfaces, and we created one simple product that can do everything. So it's demystifying it a bit, making it, and then decluttering your home as well. So all the elements of it were just about enjoying the product a bit more. And so we just wanted to take that idea and get it into brand advertising, because I think it's a powerful idea, and I think it's a different idea in terms of the cleaning category itself. It's obsessed with data and stats. Kill 99.9%. Or if you look at your recent fairy ad, this now is 12x times concentrated, or it's you get an extra 20% in the bottle. It's very kind of functional, and that all comes out of basically post World War II Mad Men style advertising agencies that realized if they told women that they were using certain products that had certain properties, it made them feel like they were looking after their home properly, which elevated their status. And so it's all come out of basically advertising theory, this way cleaning products are sold. And if you don't know if you've ever noticed, but it's very male. So the way cleaning products are advertised, like Arm and Hammer,
like Bang,
Mr. Muscle,
Billet Bang,
Mr. Clean, it's all men helping women, essentially with their task, which was like the advertising idea at the time. And we just wanted to completely buck against all of that, and do something very different.
It's really interesting because like that stats, like leverage of stats. It's like, do you think that has like a life cycle? Because obviously it worked for a period of time, and then it almost like becomes normalized and like an expected baseline. A bit like how you've like sustainability was like a core marketing angle early 2000s. Like you could build a brand on solely the idea of being like eco-friendly
or natural,
and like that's just not, you can't. It's like a secondary, tertiary USP now. I guess that could be, you could kind of see that similar, I guess. Like it should just be expected that it kills 99% of germs in your house, right? It's cleaning products. So interesting to see how you've kind of latched onto that.
Yeah, I think it does go. Advertising definitely goes in cycles, but the context and culture changes.
Yeah.
So I think people now want to connect much more to their products. We've seen the kind of move into lifestyle across loads of categories, and that just hasn't really properly happened in cleaning yet. So it was always going to happen eventually, and we're just, I think, at the forefront of that change.
And that's contributed directly to that shift in age. Do you think that's contributed directly to that shift in age demographic of your customer base as you've managed to successfully execute on that kind of aspirational sort of?
I think that's right. Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah. I think just sticking to our vision and getting that out there has really helped.
Makes sense. I want to touch on measurement of those because you ran a really extensive, detailed house test on TV.
Yeah.
And TV is very intimidating for brands, partly for investment, but partly from when you've lived and breathed direct response. The idea that you can't get feedback in a day is terrifying, right?
It's also terrible from a cash flow perspective. So when you run a TV ad, you have to buy the media something like 8 weeks before. You need to reserve the slot 12 weeks before. Then you need to pay all up front 8 weeks before. So if you're spending like, let's just say notionally £500,000 or £1 million on a TV ad, it's £1 million 8 weeks before it goes live. Almost no payback straight away. Most payback comes after 6 months, let's say. So you're basically £1 million down for like 9 months.
Just sat there
cash,
staring at your house dashboard like, please, show up.
So it's brutal from a cash flow. You need to have the money to do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sorry.
But how did you approach measurement of that? And then I guess it'd be great to hear how that's then played out from like an impact perspective.
So we ran TV regionally to understand essentially how the areas that we ran the TV ad performed over time against the areas that didn't, because we knew there wouldn't be a direct response payback from the TV activity. So we set up a house test where we just took the region where the TV ads were running, and we didn't run any other tests in the whole period. We ran the TV ad, and then we did a post-treatment window, which is essentially how long you keep measuring the latent effect for. We did that for the longest I think House have ever done it. We did it for 6 months.
Yeah, crazy.
So essentially keeping all variables the same for 6 months in a region and just seeing how many customers came in that region over 6 months versus the region we didn't run the TV in.
Did you homogenize the regions? Like, did you use any like postcodes, or was it just a city?
We use postcodes. Yeah.
Postcodes to homogenize it. Yeah, makes sense.
So what we found, which was really interesting. So first, while the TV ads were live, which was about a month, we saw some customers come in, but it was pretty horrendous, right? You're talking like below 0.1.
Were you nervous?
Not really, because I expected it. And our brand director was like reassuring me that it was absolutely fine. So yeah, 0.1 return, really, really poor. You're kind of thinking, this is not great. As we kept running the post-treatment window, though, we found that more customers were coming in every week that we got further out from the activity than while the activity was live. So let's say we got about 500 customers a week during the activity from it. In the 2 weeks after the activity, it was 700 customers a week. In the 7th and 8th week, it was 900 customers a week. In the 9th and 10th week, it probably stayed the same. And then it kind of leveled out at, I can't remember the exact number, and it just kept going at that level for the whole 6 months. So the overall ICAC was just coming down and down and down and down. Eventually we switched off because the test starts to lose significance as you get too far away from the event. But we did some modeling and basically figured out that over like a year or two, based on some pretty conservative assumptions about how that changed over time, that incremental customer gain, it's like by far the most efficient activity we run. So it's pretty crazy, but it costs and it's nerve-wracking and the cash flow is hard, but the payback is, I think, pretty substantial.
And across those 3 channels, TV, radio, did you do the same across podcast and radio? And
yeah, we've done the same across all 3.
Hierarchy of the 3?
TV, well, podcast is actually is acting more as a DR channel for us.
Right.
Even though we run the brand ad. So
interesting.
That's been really interesting. And then, TV's better than radio. But radio is still strong. And then YouTube we're running at the moment with a house to compare to TV. And so far it's very similar.
Makes sense.
But like YouTube and connected TV stuff.
Pretty bullish on YouTube in general. I just think there's so much inventory to be had there that it's like, if you can get it to work.
Yeah, and the CPMs are amazing.
It's got so much upside. It's just brands don't give it enough time and like stick with it and really focus on creative. That's super interesting. So I guess you're just using that, just double down from there. Like just.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like working out how much to invest in terms of both cash flow.
Yeah.
And also percentage of marketing mix, and just being sensible, but also trying to invest in the future, because there's obviously a P&L hit.
Yeah.
And you need to factor that into like the way you run your business. So yeah, just trying to keep it going. What's really interesting is if you keep doing it. So we've been doing it a year now. And what happens every time you run the activity, you're essentially the way you see it actually come through in your data is your baseline organic.
Yeah.
So your baseline organic coming from brand search, and
direct referral traffic,
that kind of thing, it kind of just jumps up, and then it just stays there, and then it jumps up again and it stays there. And what I've been looking at is like, if we kept running this for, another 2 or 3 years at the same jump up rates in organic baseline, in year kind of 3 and 4 of our financial plan, we could be getting like half of the customers we're acquiring now for free, which would transform our P&L. I mean, we would be insanely profitable if that started happening. So yes, it costs and it's an investment, but if you actually plan over a 5-year period of how it can change your business, it's pretty substantial.
Very cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to go back to people, because I know you've scaled. How many people do you have in house now? 70 odd?
So we've got our own factory, which makes it so a bit more complicated, because we run a mixing and bottling line factory. But we've got about 60 people in London, 30 in our factory, and then probably 20 international.
Cool. And what roughly does that, in terms of your operations and marketing, what does that team look like right now?
On the marketing side?
Yeah.
So we essentially have a brand team and a growth team. And I've got a leader in each that sit on my leadership team and exec group and report into me. And in our growth team, we have retention, which is basically email and SMS. Then we have product, a product team, which is like more of a typical structure of a product team you'd find at a genuine product company like a Twitter or Revolut or something, in terms of product managers and scrum teams working in groups with designers, UX people, product managers. And within that team, they're split into acquisition and retention in their work. And then you've got performance team as well, looking after acquisition, on all the key channels. So that's growth. And then you've got performance creative sitting under performance in our business. And on the brand team, we have all of our creative production in the brand team. We have a creative director, design, our design team, and then also influencers and brand management. So yeah, that's how we split that.
And what would you say you've had to unlearn as a founder to I guess let the company scale to a point that's beyond your direct control?
It's so much learning. So I think the only way you can kind of continue to lead your company as it grows through this stage is by being very intentional about learning as much as you can about how to run a company of this size, and learning about leadership, learning about management, organizational design. These things, they're not easy. So I've had, so many coaches over the last 2 or 3 years that I pay a lot of money to, so I can ask questions about leadership and management and structure too all the time. And then I've got a chairman who has been a CEO for 40 years that I speak to every single week for multiple hours a week. And that's really been the way I've managed that process. I'd say the big learning is leadership and management. Because when you get to this, this number of people, you can't control everything, as you say. You need to have a really trusted group of people that run the business for you. And you need to motivate them in the right way, lead them in the right way, set the strategy in the right way, for them to go and be successful. So that's very different to when I was running Facebook ads and managing creatives and, basically doing every job in the business, running customer service. But it's an enjoyable change. I mean, if you were doing that stuff forever, it would get pretty dull because it's not particularly intellectually stimulating to do forever. It's really good to know how to do, but you want that change in experience and learning. So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, one thing that stands out about yourself is, and you're very intentional in terms of leadership management and also, by the sounds of things, hiring as well, and just how you approach that, which I think is more on the rare side with D2C operators or founders. And I think that's really interesting. I would love to know what maybe over the last 12 to 18 months, what are some of the biggest areas that you feel like you've evolved that's made you into the leader that you are today? Maybe, you know, some of the learnings that you've taken from some of the mentors that you have, or some of the ways that you have just really got to the point that you are right now. And obviously it's a continuous journey, right? Evolution. But what do you think has made you that today?
I don't think I'm all that, to be honest. So I wouldn't be able to say I've still got so much to learn about leadership and management. So yeah, I hate to kind of wax lyrical about it.
Well, not in the sense of we're at the end point now, but you know, you will have over the last 12 months grown as a leader.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like are there specific things that you feel like?
I mean, look, I think integrity and honesty and trust, I think, are the big things in leadership. So being fair, being honest, treating people properly, candor, giving people proper feedback, proper expectations, clear objectives. Those are the things that people both need and respond to and build trust over time, because you say what you're going to do and you do it, and you treat people properly. I think those are the principles I try and implement day to day. And then you've also got to trust your people to do great work and not tell them how to do things and let them make mistakes. So it's kind of those would be my main lessons.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I love that you mentioned candor there. That's something we've been really bullish on this year. And it's one of our company values now. We brought it in around the start of the year and seen like a massive impact and
huge
driving candor, not even, you know, just downwards, but upwards as well, and side to side and everywhere within the business. And that almost something that really stuck with me was the idea of like being kind, not nice. And nice is telling people what you want them to hear. Kind is giving feedback with, you know, productivity, honesty,
feedback is
empathy.
So powerful, honestly. So the big thing I'd recommend founders do if you're at an earlier stage is implement processes now that seem ridiculous, but it gets you into the habit of doing it. So for instance, OKRs, you don't need OKRs when you're a team of 5. You don't. But actually just doing OKRs, having mid-year reviews, having quarterly updates for the objectives, having your feedback sessions, going through that process, giving those forums for feedback and objective setting, although it feels ridiculous at that size, because like, you know, what do we need to align? We're a small team. We just know what we're doing. It actually is a really powerful thing to do. And I did it really early. And I remember me and my brother debating it because he was like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, but I think it paid off, to be honest.
100%. Yeah. It comes down to values as well. Like the sooner you can implement values and behaviors into a business, the better, because it's much harder to do it at a later point.
I think that's super interesting because we as an agency, when we were just Saw, we implemented OKRs, and I always we do quite a bit of like agency mentoring through various forums for other agency owners. And it's always like when you see other agencies, it's like you get this context of like, what do you like when you compare them to yourselves, like what's allowed us to maybe get beyond certain revenue bottlenecks and growth trajectories that maybe others get like stuck at. And a lot of it for me comes down to those areas that you'd class as being a little bit more like boring, like business operations, like HR reviews, the setting, the OKR frameworks, a lot of the back end biz ops that people just don't think about. They spend all of the time like just on like marketing or just on sales or just on service delivery. And we implemented OKRs when we were probably about 10 to 12 people. And
it's a huge blocker for companies, like not putting in proper structure and process around performance, for sure.
Sorry, I want to talk a bit about forward looking because again, from previous conversations, you break growth levers for D2C runs into like three sections, right? What are those 3 areas?
So always think about channels, products, and markets as the 3 ways you can grow.
Yeah. So we've touched a bit on channels with some of this diversification. Well, you've got sales channels and marketing channels, I guess. So
yeah, so I mean sales channels in terms of, are you D2C? Are you in wholesale?
Yeah, makes sense.
Are you in retail? Those 3.
So looking forward, say we've obviously coming up to Q4, so maybe playbooks may be set for then. But looking into next year, how are you thinking about evolving the business in pursuit of further growth into next year?
So we've never tapped any of the levers. So we're now 6 years in, and we're still one product, really, one market, one channel.
Some serious focus and restraint as well. Like,
yeah, major restraint. And a lot of people have been telling me for a long time, we're going to run out of TAM. We need to expand this. We need to expand that. My view is that your TAM there's no fixed ceiling on your TAM. Your TAM is dependent on your work. So if we expand markets and channels, especially markets, our TAM in the UK will be limited by the distraction of being able to grow in other markets. So for that reason, I've always wanted to hold it off for as long as possible. And to be honest, that's still my view now. So even at our penetration, I think we should spend another 2 or 3 years focusing on improving our subscription model, improving our product for Counterclean, and improving our marketing in the UK. I think we've got so much longer to go on that. So it's a really boring answer, but I'm not planning really to tap on any of the major growth levers, even at this stage, for the foreseeable.
Makes sense. Can't argue with it if it's worked there.
I guess it depends on the vertical as well, in terms of like when you make that shift to more diversification or SKU diversification. Because I guess with where you are in cleaning, the TAM is likely quite big, right?
Well, I think only because
because you've probably generated a significant.
Yeah, I think the TAM isn't that big. I mean, the surface cleaning market in the UK is like £300 million.
Interesting.
I do feel like there's the concept of like rising tides lift all boats must help you a little bit, as you're getting probably more competitors into the space. Have you felt an effect of any of their work in growing the category as a whole?
Not really, to be honest. We've not seen a huge amount of direct competition. I think that's partly because we built a really good moat around what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to, I think, copy the exact set of things we do. For Purdy and Figg.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, look, obviously there are some businesses that need to expand, products, channels, markets faster than we've done. My general view, though, is that most businesses do it way too early, and they could wait many years before doing it. And that by doing it, they overcomplicate their businesses. They lose focus on what matters. The business becomes inefficient. Things conflict. So to give an example, I mean, if you're running multiple markets with a small team or multiple channels, you just have internal conflicts around what to prioritize. I mean, your team can only create so much creative for each market, or a channel like wholesale or grocery may conflict with your D2C channel, and your marketing team have to create completely different materials for those 2 channels, and they might cannibalize each other. So you just create all this internal conflict and difficult decision making. Whereas when you're simple and focused, it's so clear to everyone. This is what we're focusing on: UK creative, UK influencers. How do we get better at that? There's no competing resource or no competing focus area. And that's, I think, really powerful. So yeah, my advice to people would be if they're thinking, I'd really like to go to market, just wait a year and then see what happens. And then when that year goes, see if you can wait another year.
Yeah.
And keep doing that.
Well, it's clearly working. So no, I completely agree. I think like when you distill strategy down to its core, like it part of that is just prioritization, and the simpler that becomes, the easier the strategy is.
Yeah, definitely.
And what, because I know what I was listening to you talk in another podcast, and you mentioned, ideally you wouldn't ever sell the business because your goal is to build it into an empire. I mean, what does that look like? Because empire building often requires some level of expansion, vertical play, taking away from focus. So what does that look like?
No, yeah. Eventually we will do all of it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But I think great consumer brands are built over a decade or two decades. We've got this idea, partly from the first D2C wave, that you can build $1 billion brand in 3 or 4 years. It's like, yeah, you can if you raise 150 million quid and you never make any money. But if you want to build a lasting brand that's genuinely got operational moats, that really knows how to do a small set of things really well, I believe you stay focused and then you build in those channels, markets, and products one at a time, at the right time, slowly and confidently. And that means it will take probably 20 years to build a multi-billion-dollar brand. But that's okay. Like, if I was to sell Purdy and Figg, I would just want to start another brand. And I like this brand. So I'm in no rush. And so that's kind of my approach with the whole exit question.
Yeah. Student in the game. Just love the game, playing the game, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, we will one day, I think, probably sell. And there will be opportunities for our team to make money from there. We've got an ESOP scheme our whole team is part of. So they will be able to, cash out shares along the way, and we will one day sell. But I don't run the business like that. Yeah. I run it like, what's the best way to run the business? And if someone comes along one day and offers insane money that makes everyone very rich, we'll consider it.
Yeah. I feel like one of your biggest superpowers, just from speaking to you today, is patience, which is something that, as you said in D2C, especially, since COVID and how it's created this idea that we need quick fixes, we need to be scaling quickly. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm impatient in many ways. I mean, I'm a bloody nightmare to work with.
I think you need a nice balance of the two, right? You need to be patient in like the macro and like impatient in the micro.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, pace, I feel like one of the biggest jobs of a CEO is to inject pace into a business, but then have restraint and patience on a longer term time horizon, which I think you display.
I think that's
very
right.
well.
I think that's right. Yeah. And most of the value you'll accrue in a business will come in the last few years. So, and if you look at any of the great entrepreneurs or investors, like Warren Buffett, I think had like $1 billion when he was 60.
Yeah.
And then he's, one of the richest men in the world now. And I think it might be when he was 70. I can't quite remember, but he's made basically all of his money in the last like 15 years.
Do you follow him and Charlie Munger quite closely?
Yeah.
Because they're proponents of taking very, very few, very large bets.
Yeah, concentrated bets.
Which I think is like a very, and even when you look at the investing environment today in comparison to that, it's like the complete anti-thesis of like how to generate upside in investing.
Yeah. It's to let your winners ride, basically.
Exactly. Like go big on one company and hold it for 30 years, which I guess is backs into some of the way you
not
think
necessarily
about.
30.
No, yeah.
It'll be a bit long.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting to...
But definitely think in decades. I mean, one of my big reflections as a founder that I didn't realize when I started Purdy and Figg, despite having a business before that, you're signing up for at least a decade of your life, and probably 2.
It was that quote from Bill Gates: you overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you could do in 10.
Yeah. But really, when you're starting a company, think about,
it's a one-way.
Do you want to spend the next decade or more, maybe 2 decades, working on this thing? Because that's what it is. I mean, I will think long and hard about starting another company and what it is, because it is a serious thing to do. And when I was I didn't really realize that, to be honest. When I started, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'll just do this. And I was thinking in kind of 1 or 2 or 3 year chunks. But now being close, getting up to our first decade, it feels like we are. I'm really realizing that it's a long old journey.
Yeah, exciting, very exciting. We don't have much time left, but I really wanted to touch on family and working with family.
Okay.
Because I think I've worked with family members. It's gone well and not so well in some cases.
Same.
Yeah, same as Ollie. How have you found, how's that evolved, the dynamic of your family? Because obviously your brother is your co-founder, and obviously your mum is also co-founder, face of the brand. How does that work with the three of you?
Yeah, I mean, working with family is great. It's such fun because you love each other, you know each other so well. And I think genuinely you make great decisions. So my family, we were always brought up with the value of debate and discussion. So around the dinner table, it was like politics and whatever else. And we brought that to the business. So it was like, that's now so embedded in our culture at Purdy Figg. So when new people come in, they're quite shocked because, we'll be talking about an idea or, they'll put forward a proposal, and the approach of Purdy Figg is like, pick it apart, debate it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and a lot of challenge to get to the right answer. And people find it quite shocking because they're used to being in an environment where it's like, oh, no, yeah, that's just your thing, go ahead. And we're not doing it to control. It's just all of us finding the best answer. Always been a big part of our culture. So yeah, that all came from the family dynamic basically, and that trust that you get in family just to be able to discuss things and know that you're truth seeking, getting to the right answer for everyone. So I loved that whole side of it. As the business grows, it gets complicated, right? Because people want different things. So, I wanted to continue building a company, a bigger company. I enjoyed that. But a lot of founders don't like, that stage of a company. And my mum especially, she's 70, I think. Oh God, she'll kill me. 68 or 69 maybe. So, she can't work for more than, so long. So it was all about finding the right thing for everyone and coming to that with a lot of empathy and a lot of love around let's all just make sure this works for everyone along the journey. And if you do that and you put each other first the whole way, I think it works. It doesn't work if you start butting heads, being selfish, thinking you're getting hard done by, or in any kind of building any resentment or not communicating. That's when I think things go pear-shaped with family. So yeah, for us, it's worked great. But you've got to bring the right mindset to it, I think.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, leaving the ego at the door almost. And debate is good. Debate is healthy.
Or like ego can be there, but it's like, let's all talk about that. So it's like, let's all talk about where our ego is at and how we're feeling about our ego and, how it's all going to work, rather than just like pretending it's not there and, lots of resentment and difficult things. So there's nothing wrong with ego. Like ego is a part of human beings. You can't stop ego. We've all got it, but you can talk about it and then address solutions so that everyone feels respected.
Yeah. Transparency then, speaking what you feel.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, massive pleasure as always. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for coming on.
Where can people find you?
So my LinkedIn is relatively active now. So just Jack Rubin on LinkedIn. And then I'm on Twitter, which is more DC stuff. So if you want, I occasionally tweet about what I'm learning in the business. I think I'm Jack Rubin 1 on Twitter. Maybe
the soap guy.
Oh yeah, the soap guy.
Yeah. We'll put you in the description anyway. So
it's fine.
See you there. Well, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Bye.